Umajinaturandasya Jana Jana Salakaya Chakshuna Tanyena Tva Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakavatu Vischa Kripasanvi Vacha Tita Nam Pavane Vyo Vaishnavijinamo Namaha. Good evening. So we'll begin by chanting the very first verse of the Mangalacarana of the Sandarbhas, located in the first Sandarbha, the Tattva Sandarbha. That verse which reveals the glorious manifestation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's hidden in many ways in the Kali Yuga. Hard to find things, particularly our way in Kali Yuga, so what to speak of finding God. So we'll chant responsively. Krishna Varnam Tusa Krishnam.
Krishna Varnam Tusa Krishnam.
Sangopangastra Parsadan.
Sangopangastra Parsadan.
Yagnai Sankirtana Prayar.
Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar.
Yajantihi Sumedasa.
Yajantihi Sumedasa.
Krishna Varnam Tusa Krishnam.
Krishna Varnam Tusa Krishnam.
Sangopangastra Parsadam.
Sangopangastra Parsadam.
Yajnai Sankirtana Prayar.
Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar.
Yajantihi Sumedasa.
Yajantihi Sumedasa.
Krishna Varnam Tusa Krishnam.
Krishna Varnam Tusa Krishnam.
Sangopangastra Parsadam.
Sangopangastra Parsadam.
Yajnai Sankirtana Prayar.
Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar.
Yajantihi Sumedasa.
Yajantihi Sumedasa.
In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. It's interesting to note, you can imagine so many great sadhus and saints studying Srila Vyasadev's Srimad Bhagavatam for 4,500 years. Different sampradayas, different acharyas, different sadhus, all studying this great scripture that Srila Vyasadeva had left. But none knew the purport to this verse. None. They all had purports to all these verses of the Bhagavatam. But they couldn't figure this one out until the Goswamis came, until Lord Chaitanya advented. So that's an interesting thing. That what didn't they see? It's clear as day to us. That's called good association. That's called samskara. That is what we receive through the disciplic succession. Is we receive those impressions that replace the impressions of material existence. We're very impressionable, to say the least. Whatever environment we're put in, it has an effect on us. Very few can be in an environment and not be affected by it. Those that can exist in an environment without being affected, we call those realized souls, sadhus, yogis. They can sit in an environment and not be affected by whether it's hot or whether it's cold, not be affected by what sensory things come in. So I think this is very important for us to understand that we are engaged by some extreme good fortune in a process it's not a mechanical process. It's not a system where we're going to work for so long and there's going to be a result. There may or may not be a result. What we're hopeful of is if there is a result, the result will be that my impressions, what I experience, my experiential existence would become affected by such good association that I won't be affected and impressed by the material environment. That in and of itself is sufficient, should be sufficient, should become our sufficiency. When we begin to hear transcendent knowledge, Sabda Brahman, and we're going to speak about this considerably in the next few classes, this transcendental sound vibration. When we begin to hear it in the beginning stages, and we start to become enthused by our spiritual prospect, we immediately set our goals as we've always set our goals in material existence. We perceive something, we want to enjoy it, and we stake a claim on it. We want to be benefited by it. And we set out to try to acquire it or enjoy it, exploit it, basically. We don't like to use the word exploit, but even whatever the relationship is, we're out to win the day. You know, you want to eat the best, sleep the best, have the best living arrangements. So we come into an environment and we hear from the sadhus and we hear about the spiritual realm. And we immediately get the same propensity we're used to, that conquering over a propensity, it sets in because it's there already. It's burned into us. This is the way we've always been in material existence. Since time immemorial, it's been a dog-eat-dog world, so to speak. The lesser food is food for the bigger, more powerful. One living entity is the prey of another. So we hear about the spiritual realm and we immediately think, well, let me strive for that. That has to be better. And we sometimes become confused. We confuse what the sadhus speak of when they speak of Swarga Loka, higher planetary systems, free of suffering of material existence, free of the gross influence of passion and ignorance. And we hear of Vaikuntha and we think, well, I want to go to that realm. But what's our objective? Why? Well, I want to merge into the Supreme.
Free from suffering.
I'd like to be free from suffering. I'd like to be like God, same form. I'd like to be with God, associate with him, be around him. He must have some cool people with him. I'd like to have all the opulences and powers that he has. So we attain these desires for liberation in any different form. Salokya, Sayuja, Samipa. And it's quite an aspiration. But there's something more spoken about here when we talk about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Something quite unique in what he came to give. He came to give more than that simple liberation. He came to give much more than that. He came to allow the most unfortunate to become the most fortunate. He came to distribute freely praying bhakti, pure loving existence. So in entering into this study of Sandarbha, beginning with the Tattva Sandarbha, even though we've been practicing devotion either for a short or a long period of time, either for a life or lifetimes, it's an extremely rare opportunity for us to enter into an understanding of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is revolutionary. An understanding of the Bhagavatam coming from the Supreme Lord's personal associates, his servitors, his eternal companions, all listed here. Upa-anga, servitors, sa-anga, associates, astra, weapons, personal weapons, parsadam, confidential companions, all engaged in this Sankirtan sacrifice. Sangopam gastra parsadam, Sangopam gastra parsadam. So much is included in these words that the Lord is coming with his whole entourage in his original form, Swayam Bhagavan. And the unique opportunity I'm talking about is in coming with all of his eternal associates, his very close associates, we're able to see the topmost exchange of praying and develop that mood of service. Ahaitakiya pratiyata, unmotivated, uninterrupted. Those highest conceptions of service to the Supreme Lord coming to us through these Goswamis who are engaged in the highest service. Their eternal position, both in Krishna Leela and Chaitanya Leela, cannot be superseded according to our understanding of Vaishnavism, the Gaudiya understanding, the positions of the servants of the gopis, and the position of the Goswamis in relationship to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, becoming the architects of his movement and allowing for that distribution of prem to the lowest of mankind. So when we look at what Jiva Goswami is making available to us, it behooves us to take full advantage of what's being presented in these Sandarbhas. Because just like this verse, for 4,500 years, no one knew what this verse really was referring to until the Goswamis brought out the meaning. In a similar way, who knows the depth of unalloyed devotion, that taste of prema, more than the Goswamis? That's our rare opportunity here. So this evening, I want to continue a little bit and finish up with the Mangalacarana verses, the 8 introductory verses to the Tattva Sandarbha, to the whole Sandarbha, the Sat Sandarbha, coming at the beginning. Concentrating this evening on the 6th verse and the 8th verse in particular, because they hold some real significance to us as sadhakas, as practitioners. And they hold a great significance, the 8th verse does, in that it is the seed verse for the entire Sandarbhas. This 8th verse, it plants the seeds that will grow into a deep and rich understanding of the Bhagavatam through the Sandarbhas. So you remember from last class, this 8th verse dealt with qualification, adhikari. The proper adhikari required to enter into an understanding of the Tattva Sandarbha, or best to say the entire Sandarbhas. In English, the verse reads, "This book may be studied only by one whose sole desire is to serve the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna." Well, if somebody's already at that stage of having a sole desire to worship the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, what do they need the Sandarbhas for? What's the need for the Bhagavat? They've already, isn't that the goal being established by the author himself? That these Sandarbhas are to what? To bring us closer to the absolute truth through the sound vibration of Srimad Bhagavatam. So what's this mean? Soul, that to me says what? Uninterrupted, haitaki, and there's nothing standing in the way. That's all you want is to attain Krishna. So it would see that the author is defeating the purpose here by qualifying his student to already be perfectly situated in unalloyed devotion. Problem. We look at the verse and we say, oh, well, that rules me out. I'm not there yet. And he's saying, this book may be studied only, solely, Eka Bhajan. You can enter into the bhajan of the book only if you have your sole desire, solely, to serve the lotus feet, to have bhajan at the lotus feet of Krishna. So this needs to be investigated a little bit. And what we find in that investigation, as I explained in the last class, Srila Jiva Goswami himself wrote a commentary on his first 4 of the 6 Sandarbhas. Those first 4 Sandarbhas dealing with Sambandha Gyan, he wrote his own commentary. That commentary is Sarva Samvadini, what brings out the essence. I mean, the essence of the essence. They never end with this essence. They're always drawing out more and writing commentaries upon commentaries. Let me bring this out even more because there's more here. It's transcendental. So in his commentary, what he said, he backs off. Jiva himself, he says, primarily, not solely, someone whose primary objective is the lotus feet of Krishna is a ripe student for this study of Tattva Sandarbha. That means we can go ahead. His verse says solely, but in his commentary, he says, it's okay if you're not quite at the soulful position of being solely sold out to your supreme soul. This is okay. Proceed. So, but there's also a warning in this, that the student of this work must be willing to turn his consciousness. He must be willing to change his consciousness. He must be willing to approach it. First of all, an outsider, someone who's just a philosopher, is not recommended to take up this study. So, well, does that mean that they shouldn't? No, it means if you're going to take up the study, you need to take up the study in a determined way. You can't be an armchair philosopher and enter into the mysteries of the Sandarbhas. The Sandarbhas have so much more to give you. You will not get it. You're not going to go where I want to take you if you just want to look at this as a philosophical exercise. If you just want to analyze my words, my sentences, my paragraphs, the verses I quote from the Bhagavad, simply with a desire to compare philosophies between what is offered from Subda, from transcendental vibration, and what is offered from the ramblings of your mind and the philosophers of your day. If you want to take that kind of an armchair approach to this work, you're not going to get anywhere. I have something really substantial to give you here, a real gem, something that's going to be very, very helpful, very deep. The deepest understanding of yourself is available if you come with me, but you're not going to be able to come with that attitude. So that's what he's saying to the philosophers of the day. You really need to turn your consciousness. You have to be willing to do that, to enter into this practice, to enter into this contents of what I'm trying to give you. Your inquiry itself should be rooted in a trans-egoic view. What does that mean? You got to be willing to get above your ego. whatever conceptions you have in relationship to your position, if you want to come into this and understand it, you have to transcend that. We want to go into the core of our, we can go through these books, through this Sandarbha, we can go into the core of our being. That's the opportunity that's offered here. The core of your being, to know everything about yourself, that's available. But you're going to have to check your ego. It's not objective. This understanding, it cannot be measured. Just like now, science has come to a point where they recognize that the objective approach has reached its boundary. So beyond this boundary, they now have introduced a different field of science, quantum. What does that mean? It means that they recognize that the observer himself or selves has an influence on the observed. They're starting to understand there's consciousness has power over matter. I mean, they could have seen it all along, but they just didn't get it. They could have seen, well, the people that put together the great armies of the world were conscious entities. The people that traveled and explored the world had consciousness. The people that built the great things or did the great science or performed the experiments and came up with, so many medical solutions to their problems, all were conscious entities. But still, when they looked at the world, everything was, well, it's fixed. So they hit a barrier recently in the last few decades. Wait, the more I observe it, my observation in and of itself is changing, has an influence. Oh my God, man, look at what you've done in the world. Your influence has taken you where you are today. And now is the time you finally come to realize that you have an influence on the matter that you've been, that you're in, your environment. It does seem a little interesting that they didn't come up with this a long time ago. Because everything that they've accomplished is because they did something. Well, I can't make I can't make 12 inches into 13. Well, actually, there's relativity and, these, I don't understand all of it's about me, but, they're getting into this quantum physics, quantum scientific inquiry where they understand their consciousness has an effect on what they're measuring. And science is not all about measuring anymore. It's something beyond that. So similarly, we have to be willing to go into a deeper approach to knowledge in order to enter into this mystery. That's what is being spoken of here in this 6th Anucheda.
6th or 8th?
6th.
Because you said the 8th verse deals with eligibility.
No, the 6th verse. Did I say 8th? I misspoke if I did. So what comes out is another approach to look at this. What does it mean to really set aside the ego and come into this in the proper frame of mind? Well, that proper frame of mind goes beyond mind. And what the commentator says in his commentary, I don't know if it's coming from Jiva's, I didn't check that today, but he refers to it as whole-bodied, a whole-bodied approach. And what he means by that is the whole of our existence, all the different aspects of our body. So those different aspects are referred to as kosas. So anamoya kosa, the physical body, anamoya. Pranamoya, which is our emotional body. We actually have feelings. We have experiences, and those experiences bring us into feeling. We feel hot, we feel cold. And those things also come to the stage of having an emotional impact on ourself. So physical, emotional, manomoya, mental. Our experiences have a mental. And vijnana, which is atma, our self, our consciousness itself. So what's being recommended here is a whole-bodied approach to this study. That's unique when you think about it. You have to surrender everything. Be willing to enter into it fully with your body, with your mind, with your emotions, with your whole being. Of course, we know the other, which is the Anandamoya. And from our lineage, our study, when we say Anandamaya kosa, we refer to the super soul. That's the Vaishnav viewpoint. So Anamoya, Pranamoya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, all these different kosas constitute a whole-bodied approach, and that's what's being recommended here when we talk about qualification. Are you willing to do that, to enter into this study? Give it your all of your all. Understanding it's not just an intellectual enterprise. Intellect, it's not just for an enjoyment of the intellectual pursuit in and of itself. And for the sadhaka, there's more involved here too. That we have to be able to give up that conception of our own spirituality that potentially stands in our way. We have to be able to fully embrace a conscious change where our sense of spiritual self where we already have a conception that I understand my spirituality. I've already surrendered. I'm there. I've done what's necessary. I have my beads, I have my guru, I have my sangha. I have a sense of what is my devotional life. But what we're speaking about here in the full-bodied approach is full self-surrender. As deep as we can go by understanding, accepting everything that's favorable, setting aside everything that's unfavorable, accepting the maintenance and the protection of the Supreme Lord, and being entirely humble. Yes, full self-surrender. So that's what we're talking about. That's what he's asking for us as students of his Sandarbhas, is leave all that conception of where you are and take advantage of full self-surrender in understanding what's to be offered here. Basically, unconditional devotion to Krishna is the goal of our existence. Nothing else. Everything else has to be set aside. Whatever egoic approach we may have to our spirituality, we need to forego that. And in forgoing that, I will be able to give you the blessings that are being offered here in this Mangalacarana. I am going to be able to take you to the feet of Krishna. So a little on qualification in the 6th Anucheta. And then we come to the 8th, which I want to go over a little bit more because there's so much there. So let's see, how did we get here? The Mangalacaranas, we know what are the characteristics: offering of obeisances, namaskar, vastu nirdesh, identifying the subject, ashirvad, seeking of blessings. The beginning one is the recognition of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as evidenced in the hidden in the Bhagavatam. Taking shelter of Lord Chaitanya. So the first 2 Anuchetas deal with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then the author offers his respects to Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. He, in the 4th Anucheta, he recognizes Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami as the true, he's so humble in his approach as the true author. I put this whole thing together from his notes. I rearranged some things and filled in a couple spots, but really it's Gopal Bhatta's work without his notes. I'm simply a petty jiva compared to Gopal Bhatta and my associates. So that's the 5th Anucheta, his complete humility in preparing the work. The 6th is, for us as students, you need some qualification. And if you want to be a philosopher and you don't want to turn your consciousness, you don't want to make this a whole personal, give it your all, then it's not going to work. You never enter the mysteries that I'm going to be able to reveal here through the notes of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. It's important that what we're seeing here, what we experience in this Mangalacharana, is a deep appreciation for how Guru Parampara works, how the Parampara works. Jiva Goswami, as the author of the work, is speaking to his lack of qualification, but his willingness to surrender to what? To that current of spiritual energy that's coming to him in disciplic succession through Sri Chaitanya, Rupa, Sanatan, and Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And you need to also enter into that current by, as I, the author, if I have any potency in being able to present this Sandarbhas, Sat Sandarbhas for your benefit, it's coming through me. Everything is coming, not, there's no ego here. I'm just das, anu, das. And you as a student, you take up that mood that's my mood, you can enter into the full understanding of what's being presented to you in this work. In the 7th, he takes permission. After offering obeisances to my initiating spiritual master and to those spiritual masters who taught me the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam, I wish to write this book called Sri Bhagavat Sandarbha. There is a Bhagavat Sandarbha, but there's also the Bhagavat Sandarbha, and that's what he's referring to all the Sandarbhas here. So here he's begging for a blessing. I wish, after offering my obeisances, they will accept and they will give me the power to do this. And then we come to the seed verse for the entire Sat Sandarbhas. This is the core truths of everything that's going to be put forth in this one verse. We know what a seed is from, we chant our seed verses every day, right? That seed is what helps us at this stage. So for those who are taking mantra, Diksha, you know there's a seed and you're familiar with that concept. So verse 8 is the seed conception for the entire Sandarbha. It contains everything, the Vasaya, the subject, Visaya, Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan. This one verse contains everything of the Sandarbhas. It both describes the reality, which is the objective of the work, and it describes how we can attune our consciousness to that absolute reality. So this is the seed. The feature of Lord Krishna as pure consciousness without any manifest characteristics is called Brahman in some portions of the Vedas. In another feature, he expands as the Purusha who controls the external potency, Maya, by his many plenary portions. In yet another of his principal forms, he is present as Narayan in the spiritual sky. Vaikuntha. May that Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, bestow love for himself on those who worship his lotus feet in this world. The entirety of the Sandarbhas is meant as a commentary on this one verse. It's the seed of the entire work. So we have a similar verses as this in the Bhagavatam. which is also a seed verse of the Bhagavatam. What is that verse? Mm-hmm. See if I got it here. Third canto. First canto, 1 to 11. Vedanti, go ahead. You know it?
The beginning and then the part with the Brahmati.
Brahmati Paravatmati Bhagavaniti
verse.
Samjite.
Can't remember all the verses.
All right, well, let's bring it up here. Vedanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yaj jnanamavayam brahmeti paravatmeti bhagavan iti sabdyate. The knowers of truth call this truth advaya jnana. Advayam jnanam, the supreme conscious being, who is called Brahman by the Jnanis, Paramatma by the yogis, and Bhagavan by the devotees. Strange. So very similar to that verse is this seed verse. So Swayam Bhagavan is the subject of the work. And the work, the words of the work, the sound vibration of the work is meant to signify him. So it's the signified will be the signified Lord Shri Krishna in his various manifestations are meant to come out from the words. Now, what's important to understand is if these words are to turn our consciousness to an in-depth understanding of the Supreme Absolute, they're not going to be regular words. They in themselves have an inherent potency. So one of the first things that's going to be dealt with in the Sandarbhas, in the Tat Sandarbhas, in the very next few Anuchedas, is this idea that the words of the Bhagavat, Sabda Brahman, Apurusha, they in and of themselves have potency. They have spiritual potency. So the work, the sambandha of the work is the explanation of the Supreme through these transcendent words. If they weren't, how could they even begin to give us any explanation, any understanding of the infinite, of the ununderstandable? The Abhideya is worship of his feet, and that will become apparent in the work. Specifically, when we come to that Bhakti Sandarbha, which deals with the practice. And the Prayojan is praying, pure love of God. So that is what constitutes the objective of the Sandarbhas. And much emphasis is given in the beginning to a thorough understanding of the Supreme Personality. In the Bhagavat Sandarbha, which is the second of the 6 Sandarbhas, it deals with the Srimad Bhagavatam, but it also deals with the conception of Brahmati. Then the third Sandarbha deals with, well, it's called Paramatma Sandarbha. And the fourth is the Krishna Sandarbha. So all 3 aspects have their own Sandarbhas. Of course, the first one deals with both the Bhagavatam itself and Brahman. Why? Why doesn't it have it? Why doesn't Brahmati have its own? Well, it's indescribable. Those that aspire to understand Brahman, what can we say about it? We can't say anything because it doesn't allow any comparisons. It doesn't allow any explanation. Those that adhere to that approach, in and of itself, say themselves, well, it can't be explained, it can't be comprehended, it can't be, no words can give it justice. So for those that look at the Bhagavat in that viewpoint, that's the approach that Jiva Goswami takes in the Bhagavat Sandarbha. In the very beginning, he does deal with it thoroughly. And he's also going to deal with it a little bit here in the Tattva Sandarbha. They always want to get it out of the way. Kick it out of the way. It's like immediately the Vaishnavas, like this whole conception, this Brahman. All right, we recognize Krishna has an effulgence. Why you would be attracted to that and not everything else that's him? Not only his effulgence, his character, his pastimes, the sweetness. I mean, the effulgence is so secondary to what is Krishna. So Brahman, eternal, conscious, unlimited. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Then we come to Paramatma, the Antaryami, the different manifestations of Paramatma, Karnadakshay Vishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Kashirodakshay Vishnu, all these different manifestations of Paramatma as the indwelling super soul of either the cosmic manifestation, the individual universe, or the individuals themselves. So when we speak of Paramatma and his manifestation, we're talking about all this. Antaryami, the indwelling personality, the indwelling, what's the use of it? Eminence of the Supreme, both within the cosmic manifestation, within the individual universes. So Karnadakshay Vishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Kashirodakshay Vishnu. Kashirodakshay Vishnu, within the individual jivas, accompanying them. So this is all Paramatma. And also within the universes, he's in charge of all the guna avatars. They're working under his direction for creating the environment for the jiva, and the Leela avatars to offer an avenue to develop some spiritual sense and develop some sense of appreciation for the Supreme. Of course, we know sometimes there's special avatars, which when Krishna himself comes, he looks like one. See, it appears that he comes through, Karnadakshay Vishnu, like all the other. He's coming into the atmosphere of the material realm, like the other manifestation, the manifest avatars. But he's distinctly different. He's Swayam Rupa, independent of all other forms. He has his own self-existent form, which is the basis of all the other forms. So that basically finishes up a pretty comprehensive understanding of what, again, it's a Mangalacarana, Swami Tripurari just wrote a whole book on a Mangalacarana. So, you know, we could spend a considerable amount of time going in deeper, but we're going to proceed in our next class into the epistemological. That's what it says here. Epistemological. Is that what I said?
That's what you said?
That's what it says. You want to pronounce it?
No.
That sounds right.
Epistemological validity of the Vedas, the Itihasas, and the Puranas, culminating in Srimad Bhagavatam. The validity of them. So we'll take that up in the next class. Dealing first with what is the nature of knowledge and how this approach based on the Vedas can be put forth in a way that all classes of seekers of conscious knowledge of their being can appreciate it in a non-sectarian way. But that requires what? Well, they can no longer be, they have to have the qualification. They can't be armchair. They have to be able to go with the whole body, mind, emotions, self. They'd be able to turn themselves and comprehend Sabda Brahman, transcendental sound vibration. But before we go there, let us look at the other methods of acquiring knowledge and their defects. Because we already have ways of acquiring knowledge. Jiva Goswami is going to put forth that really the way to acquire knowledge is through the Veda. And of all the Vedas, Srimad Bhagavatam is the topmost Praman. So we've got to deal with, well, what about our senses? Why don't those work? So they have some defects. So he's going to deal with, there's 4 defects, and this is how they affect us in acquiring knowledge and why they're not. Anyway, I don't want to go there. But that'll be the next class, is we're going to deal with the other ways of acquiring knowledge and how Jiva Goswami can convince not only us who have some faith. Actually, he wants us to go beyond faith. He wants us to go beyond faith, and he wants to explain to us the nature of transcendental sound vibration. So, are there any questions? Thank you so much for your association. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Much to Bischa.